Hello, my name is Samantha Rivas. Today I am at Rio Grande High School pool, and I am here with Coach Schreiber, and I have a couple of questions for him about swimming. Hi, Coach Schreiber.
Hello, Samantha.
So my first question for you today is, at what age did you begin swimming? At what made you interested in the sport?
When I started swimming, I was probably about 6 years old, I think is when my parents kind of threw me in the water. I began swimming on competitive teams shortly after that. I think it was a sport that I could do during the winters and during the summers to keep me busy when school wasn't in. But it was an easy sport that came to me. I enjoyed being in the water. So it was kind of a natural match for me to take on swimming. And I did other sports during the off seasons with it, but normally I swam on a club team almost year round. So I swam probably starting around 6 years old to 7 years old on competitive teams in Connecticut.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is, what made you want to coach this sport? And how different is it for practicing it yourself?
What made me want to coach this sport was it was my first year teaching at Atrisco, and the coach actually sent out an email asking for an assistant, and I had a lot of experience swimming competitively, and so I offered my help. The next year, she stepped down, and I took over coaching, and I've been coaching it for 8 years now. So, and what made me want to do it is it was a sport that I knew well, and a sport that I was passionate about, that I felt I could teach and help a lot of others become interested and excited about a sport that they might not have tried before. And the difference between trying to practice it versus coaching it, I'd say it's a lot easier. Actually, it was easier for me practicing it than coaching. I had to almost learn how to coach while on the deck. It's like swimming while on the land, to try to explain it. And since I started at such a young age, when I learned how to swim, I had to kind of relearn how did I learn how to swim, so I could start to teach and coach that technique. So that became a little bit of a challenge, but through my experience and stuff like that, I'm good at seeing little details and nitpick little things to get the best out of my swimmers in the end, though.
Okay, so my third question is, how many years did you swim for?
I swam for roughly 10 years, and on and off for about 10 years, all the way through high school, and stopped when high school ended, mainly because not a lot of colleges these days have men's swimming as a priority, so you have to be basically the fastest of the fast to get on some of these teams unless you go to different divisions, and I got an academic scholarship instead, so I switched over to doing that.
What do you consider to be some important terms that every swimmer must know?
Certain things that they need to know, obviously, are some of the strokes, the name of some of the strokes, terminology as in, a lot of it is based on a lap time and our pace clock, so knowing to go at the top of the minute or the bottom of the minute, on the 15, on the 30, certain things like that on different parts of the time, so there's usually a giant clock that lets you kind of stay there, and it's trying to understand your pace intervals and, how to, certain things within the strokes and explaining the terminology within the strokes and flip turns and come to those finite kind of things that you need to have them grasp to understand the bigger picture of what the sport entails.
How would you describe some of these terms to someone that doesn't know how to swim?
A lot of it's going to be gradual. We build it up with a lot of drills where we call like fingertip drill, where they drag their fingertips and to get their elbows high so they start to understand what it is. And because some of the terms where I say you need to swim downhill is something that is hard to get because you're in water, but it's trying to get them to understand they got to kick hard enough to drive down with their upper body to have that momentum kind of going downhill. And it can take time, so it usually takes about a year when I get them new to try to grasp some of the new concepts and build them up for the next years to come. And so it's a lot of just explaining it to them repetitively and being consistent with what we say and how we say it, so it builds a familiarity within the sport.
Which stroke is your favorite to swim and why?
When I was younger, it was definitely backstroke. And when I was younger, it was kind of because I could breathe the entire time. And so since I had the opportunity to breathe the whole time, it made me feel more comfortable. But as I got older, butterfly and breaststroke became very good strengths for me. And nowadays, it would be breaststroke. I think my form has actually gotten a lot better as my age has actually gone on. But definitely when I was younger, it's backstroke because I think it's comfortable because it can be scary not being able to breathe all the time. And I think backstroke gave me that comfort as a young child that I could breathe. And obviously freestyle is usually almost everybody's number one go-to. So my second stroke is definitely going to be backstroke behind freestyle.
What are the 4 strokes and which one is your favorite to coach?
The 4 strokes are going to be freestyle, but freestyle is actually known as it's actually known as front crawl, because when it's freestyle, you can actually do anything you want down the lane as long as you touch the walls on both ends. The other is going to be breaststroke, butterfly, and backstroke. And I think my favorite one to coach it's going to be freestyle, most likely, but it's kind of everyone's go-to because it's the most common one to do. But outside of that, I would say backstroke, because freestyle and backstroke are very close to each other, so you can kind of teach both all at once, which makes it a lot easier. And since I have a passion for backstroke, being a backstroker, I think it kind of hits home and makes me feel more comfortable within it.
Okay, and my last question is, do you think a good dive gives a swimmer an advantage?
And a good dive I think is one of the most important things to have in swimming. A lot of people try to get out as far as they can because if you get a good dive, you can cut the length of your actual swimming down. So getting a good start and being quick to react and getting as far out as you can with a streamline in your dive is one of the most pertinent things to do to actually be successful in a race, so that you can save your energy for the strokes that you're going to take. So you can cut half the length of a pool in one dive, which will automatically cut down your time, giving you a much larger advantage than what you would normally have.
And what do you think a good dive looks like?
A good dive, it's going to be one that is actually quick to get into the water, to get distance off of the block whilst not jumping too high in the air, because the longer you jump in the air, the longer it's going to take you to get down. So it's kind of this in-between of getting straight into the water and getting out. You want to propel yourself out and down a little bit, because once you're in the water, you're going to streamline, which is going to give you that momentum to cover a lot of the length of the pool.